Picture this: turquoise waters, beaches you could stroll for days, and a vibe that makes you feel like you've stepped into a postcard. The kind of place where the water is so clear, you can see your toes wiggling in the sand. Sunshine that makes you want to ditch your sunscreen. Bad idea, trust me. It's the kind of sunshine that feels like a warm hug, wrapping you in its golden embrace. That's Saint Kitts and Nevis, people. A slice of paradise nestled in the Caribbean, where every view looks like it's been filtered to perfection. 2 islands chilling in the Caribbean, smaller than most celebrity egos, but don't let their size fool you, these islands pack a punch. Seriously, you could walk across one in a day. Imagine that, an entire island at your feet, ready to be explored. But don't let the size fool you, these islands got history. We're talking centuries of stories, layered like a rich historical cake. And we're not talking about that boring stuff they make you read in school. No, this is the kind of history that grabs you by the collar and pulls you in. We're talking about pirates, plantations, and enough plot twists to make your head spin. Imagine swashbuckling adventures and tales of treasure buried deep in the sands. Now, I'm not saying it's always been pretty. The history here is as tumultuous as the Caribbean seas during a storm. Paradise usually comes with a side of problems, and Saint Kitts and Nevis has had its fair share of storms, both literal and metaphorical. And trust me, Saint Kitts and Nevis has seen some things. From colonial battles to natural disasters, these islands have weathered it all. But that's what makes it interesting, right? The layers of history, the stories of resilience, and the spirit of the people who call this place home. The good, the bad, and the, are you kidding me? Moments. It's all part of the rich tapestry that makes Saint Kitts and Nevis so captivating, so buckle up, because we're about to dive into the wild ride that is the history of Saint Kitts and Nevis. Get ready to explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between. This is a journey you won't want to miss. Way before any of us were around, and thank goodness for that, the first peeps to hit up these islands were the Carib people. Think of them as the OG island crew, living the good life for centuries. Fishing, farming, and probably inventing the first versions of beach volleyball. Then, in the 15th century, guess who shows up? Yep, Columbus. That guy never could stay put. He named the bigger island San Cristobal, after his boy Saint Christopher. Real original, Chris. Later on, the Brits were like, nah, we calling it Saint Kitts, catchy, right? The smaller island got stuck with Nevis, maybe because it looked like a cloud from a distance, or maybe Columbus ran out of cool names. Anyway, the Europeans were here to stay, and things were about to get interesting. So the Europeans show up with their fancy ships, navigating the vast Atlantic Ocean with dreams of wealth and power. They were on a mission to find new lands and resources to exploit. And their even fancier ideas about owning everything they laid their eyes on. They believed it was their divine right to claim these lands, regardless of the indigenous people already living there. They were all about that sugar life. Sugar was the gold of the Caribbean, a highly sought-after commodity that promised immense profits. See, sugar was the IT thing back then, like the avocado toast of the 17th century. Everyone wanted a piece of the action, and the Caribbean islands were the perfect place to grow it. And guess what? Saint Kitts and Nevis had the perfect climate for growing it. Cue the land grab. The islands became a hotspot for European powers looking to cash in on the sugar boom. The British and French were like kids in a sandbox, fighting over who got to build their sugar castle where. They engaged in numerous battles and skirmishes, each trying to outdo the other. They brought in enslaved Africans to do the backbreaking work, turning the islands into brutal labor camps. The conditions were harsh, and the work was relentless. Because who needs human rights when you can have sugar, right? The exploitation was rampant, and the human cost was enormous. Spoiler alert, everyone needs human rights. The inhumane treatment eventually led to resistance and the rise of abolitionist movements. It was a mess, y'all. The islands were constantly in turmoil, with wars, revolts, and uprisings becoming a common occurrence. Wars, revolts, and enough drama to make a reality TV show blush. The power struggles were intense and the stakes were high. But hey, at least we got some cool forts and historical sites out of it, right? These remnants of the past serve as a reminder of the turbulent history that shaped the Caribbean. Section 4. The Unfunny Business of Slavery. Okay, let's get real for a second. Slavery is one of the darkest stains on human history. It's a topic that demands our attention and respect. Slavery? Not cool. Not then, not now, not ever. It was a brutal system that dehumanized millions of people. For centuries, millions of Africans were ripped from their homes and forced to work on those sugar plantations. They were treated as property, not as human beings. They endured unimaginable cruelty and injustice, all in the name of profit. Families were torn apart, and lives were destroyed. It's a dark chapter in the history of Saint Kitts and Nevis and the world. The legacy of slavery is still felt today, in the form of systemic racism and inequality. We can't forget it, and we can't let it happen again. Period. Education and remembrance are key to ensuring history doesn't repeat itself. Thankfully, the abolition movement gained momentum, and slavery was finally abolished in the British Empire in 1834. This was a monumental step towards justice. But the fight for equality and justice didn't end there. The struggle continued through the civil rights movement and still persists today. The legacy of slavery continues to affect the islands, and it's a reminder that we must always fight for a more just and equitable world. We must stand together against all forms of oppression. Alright, let's take a breather and move on to something a little less heavy, shall we? It's important to reflect, but also to find hope and joy in the progress we've made. Section 5. Freedom time. Well, eventually. So, slavery's over, right? Time to party! Well, not so fast. The road to true independence was long and winding. Saint Kitts and Nevis became part of a bunch of different federations with other Caribbean islands. It was like a game of musical chairs, except with countries instead of people. They were trying to figure out this whole governing ourselves thing, you see. Finally, in 1983, they said see ya later to the British and became an independent nation. Cue the confetti. They even got their own flag, anthem and everything. They even decided to keep the Queen as their head of state, you know, just for old time's sake. But don't let that fool you, they were running the show now. Section 6. Saint Kitts and Nevis today. Sun, fun, and progress. Fast forward to the 21st century. Saint Kitts and Nevis is a vibrant democracy, with a growing economy and a whole lot of potential. They've traded in sugar for tourism, and now people flock from all over the world to soak up those Caribbean vibes. They've got luxury resorts, world-class diving, and enough rum punch to sink a pirate ship. But it's not all about beaches and cocktails. They're also tackling issues like climate change, education, and healthcare. It's a work in progress, but hey, what isn't? Section 7. Tiny Islands, Big History. So there you have it, the epic tale of Saint Kitts and Nevis. From indigenous roots to colonization chaos, from the horrors of slavery to the triumphs of independence, these islands have seen it all. They're a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of hope. Plus, they've got some killer beaches. What's not to love? Just remember to pack your sunscreen, your sense of adventure, and maybe a history book or two, you know, to impress the locals.